you have a problem remembering people's names? You meet them, chat for a bit, and within seconds, gone. Even at the end of the conversation, if you say, oh yeah, remind me of your name again, a couple minutes later, unless you write it down, not gonna remember it. It happens to me all of the time and drives me kind of crazy. So I spent hours going through all of my clinical training materials to find the best strategies in remembering names. Then I went through things online, things that were written or published, some really great YouTube videos to find out what people were suggesting. After that, I personally tested the strategies to see what actually works. In this video, I'll share what I learned in the process and how we can use that information to actually remember names and have better, more connected relationships in the process. So let's do it. So I'm going to go through what all of that research taught me, why it still doesn't work for a lot of people, and what you can do instead that is virtually foolproof so that you can remember people's names. So what did all of my research tell us? The first big problem is that when you're meeting someone new, we're often not focused on actually hearing and attending to their name. We get so overwhelmed with the hi, oh, haha, how are you doing kind of thing that we don't actually focus and understand what is that person's name, getting it into our head. If we don't get the name into our head to begin with, we can never remember it later on. All of the strategies emphasize that you have to focus and pay attention so that you actually get the name and know what it is to begin with. What you practice, you remember more. So all of the strategies suggest that you should use or say the name. Oh, hi, Beth. It's so nice to meet you. If you can say it again during or at the end of the conversation, even better. The third issue is that a lot of times when we meet someone and we learn their name, we don't have a visual image to be able to connect that name to the person. Meeting Beth and trying to glue Beth's name to Beth's face is just hard. The strategies all say to try to visualize something that's connected to the sound of the name so you can remember it better. Adding a picture to the word really helps. Beth sounds like bath. So an image that could work for remembering her name is the image of a bathtub. And of course, practice makes perfect is true for this as well. All of the strategies say that you should try to continue to practice thinking of or using the name later on so that it gets more solidified in your head. US memory champion Ron White has a great video that I'll make sure I put in the description below. It explains these concepts and expands on them. So I'm going to run really quickly through the steps that he suggests and why these are harder to do as we get older. Ron's technique goes through 5 steps. The first is focus. We've already said this. At the beginning of meeting anyone and hearing their name, you have to focus on the actual name to get it in your head. Ron's second step is file. He wants us to look at the person's face or body, but generally the face, and find something that stands out to us that's unique. It might be beautiful eyes, it might be a big nose or ears that stick out, it might be a bushy hairdo or a beard. It's generally the first thing that you notice about the person. Now, according to Ron, this is a covert mission. We're not telling the person that we're noticing their missing tooth or their receding hairline as the one feature that really stands out. We're just noticing it for ourselves. Now, Ron's third step is again the visual picture. We think of their name and we picture some image that goes with it. For example, Beth in the bathtub. Now, the fourth step for Ron is action. This is where we link the bathtub, that visual image of the name, with the aspect of their face or their body that really stood out to us. So if Beth had a big white smile, and I noticed that first, I could picture my bathtub right on her big sparkly teeth or in her mouth. Like everyone else, Ron says we should review the information. So over time, we should keep revisiting the idea of Beth with a big bathtub in her sparkly mouth. Now, I like Ron's strategy. I've been trying it out for myself. He has used it to successfully remember hundreds of people that he just met at a conference. I think it works especially well for people who are out in the workplace and they want to quickly try to visualize and remember people's names, maybe later on so that you can connect with them and they can sell them things. I don't think that Ron's strategy is especially realistic for most people as we age, and here's why. There's a lot of multitasking and working memory that's needed for this strategy. You have to hold on to a person's name, keep the conversation going and talk to them. Think of something about their face or their body that you're going to instantly recognize. Think of a visual image that goes along with that name and pair them together while you're trying to have the whole conversation. That is just really hard to do. It's especially hard when the conversation is interesting or engaging, or there's some kind of social demand and you're trying to be socially appropriate in some way. Or maybe you're just a little bit anxious. You can't just stand there blankly and look at them while you're trying to do all those things in your head. So here's where I want to get to the real issue, and the part that I think that all the other people are missing when they give you these strategies to remember names. The goal is not actually just to remember their name, but it's to form a new connection and then strengthen and deepen that connection. Using their name is one way to do that. So my technique is for regular people, not the salespeople who are trying to remember all these names and get a good sale in the future. It's for people who like someone and actually just want to remember their name. So we're going to use the same steps, but we're making it less of a secret and more connecting. This is not actually a secret mission, and when it's not a secret, people actually like you and connect with you more. So here's the straightforward strategy that isn't so hard on your brain. Step 1, fess up, be a real person. So here's an example. Every once in a while, the people in our neighborhood have a little happy hour where all the neighbors just grab their lawn chairs and we go to somebody's house and we sit around and we share some food and chit chat for a while. So I'm at one of these and I start talking to Julie and I say, "Hey Julie, I've met you at a couple of these now, and I still don't remember your name when we leave every time. And I want to, because you and the conversations that we have are so interesting." So there's a strategy you're supposed to use where you think of something that relates to your name and you associate it with the person, and that's supposed to help. So is there something you can help me come up with so I can remember your name? "Oh yeah, we start talking about, well, Julie sounds like jewels." "Okay, great. So I'm going to associate some jewels that are in your sparkly eyes because you have really pretty eyes." This is one example where I'm just a real person. I literally have gone to these happy hours and I don't remember people's names. There's a lot of people, I'm chatting with all of them. It's just not an easy thing for me to do. Now, what happens if the person that you're talking to does not conjure up some really pretty image like Jules and Julie? What if they have a name like John? Well, it might go something like this, and it uses more humor to make it great. So there's this guy that walks his dog in our neighborhood. So I see him and he tells me his name, and I say, "Hey John, I see you so many times and your dog is adorable, and I'm probably going to remember your dog's name, but I don't know that I'm going to remember your name." And there's this strategy where I'm supposed to think of something that is an image that goes along with your name and associate it with you. Will you help me out with this? Because the only image I can think of is going to the John, and I'm not sure it's a good thing for me to be associating a toilet with your face. Now you and John are going to have a funny conversation. You might start talking about other ways to remember the name John, like other Johns that you've known in the past. Either way, whatever image you end up using, and it could be the toilet related to something about John and John's face that sparks your interest, but now you've made a funny connection. You have an inside joke that now you can share with him at any point, and it's related to his name. So why should we do this? Why would it make sense to make remembering a name a small part of your conversation? Well, first of all, it just takes away the stress of trying to do all those things covertly. In your head, thinking of this, thinking of that, putting it together, having the conversation. Most people don't do that very well. Secondly, it gives you a head start on connecting. It's another topic of conversation and something that you can joke about or connect with again the next time that you see them. This strategy shows us that it's not actually about remembering the person's name, but it's about making a better connection with them. While we're doing it, it's showing that we have a genuine interest in their name and that we're making an effort to remember it. People care about that. Now here's the extra beautiful part. It doesn't actually matter if the name sticks or not, because now you have material to use the next time you see them. One way to do this is to criticize the method. Throw me under the bus, it's fine. That that ridiculous, Dr. Amy? She totally thought this method would work, and I tried it. And now I'm sitting here looking at your beautiful eyes, and I can't remember what picture I associated with them. Both of you laugh, and you're connected again as she reminds you that it's jewels that go with Julie. You might laugh about the image that you chose. Steve, I totally chose a stove because Steve goes with stove. But later on, I couldn't remember the image at all, and I think it has something to do with the fact that I don't actually like to cook. The image just vanished. That's not gonna work for me. Here's another example from my life last week as I was trying out these strategies. I like to go jogging in the morning, and there's this little boat ramp next to the river where people can put their boats in, or sometimes people sit and fish. And there are 2 or 3 guys, older gentlemen, that go down there and set up their chairs and sit and fish all day. It's great. So when I go down there and I just like to look at the water and relax for a second in the middle of my jog, I started to talk to these guys. And they were friendly, they were great. I never got their name, but the next time I went down there, I said, hey, chatted them up for a bit, and then I said, my name's Amy, what's yours? Well, it turns out they have kind of interesting names. So one of the guys was pretty easy for me to do this with. His name was Oris, which was a pretty unusual name. But here is a man sitting at the waterfront, and I can picture an oar. Okay, this is lovely. Oris, I'm gonna put an oar right on your nose because you're sitting here fishing. Or is your name. Okay, excellent. This is totally gonna work. The other guy you would think would be easy for me to remember. His name was something that goes along with the idea of throwing something. I am so tempted to call him Chuck because it's the only male name that I can think of where you would throw something. And we sat and joked for a couple of minutes about how, okay, it's about throwing something, and he had a big beard, so I was gonna picture something being thrown out of his beard. I literally can't remember his name. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Chuck. Now all I can think of is Chuck. So the next time I go back there, I'm gonna be like, Oris, I totally remember your name. The strategy worked. But you, guy with the beard, something being thrown out of it, please remind me of your name because I think it's Chuck and I don't actually think it's Chuck. It is going to be the funniest, most humorous conversation. I may start calling him Chuck in the future, and I'm actually going to find out his real name. When I do, I'll put it in the comment section below. This is a great illustration where the technique did not work perfectly for me, but now I have more information, another way to connect with someone where otherwise it just would have been kind of awkward. Okay, I did this whole thing and I didn't remember your name. So today we've talked about a real way to remember names and a way that also makes people feel instantly more connected to you. I would love to hear how it works for you and maybe some funny stories along the way about what went well and what didn't. So feel free to comment below. If you like these ideas and you want more, feel free to subscribe to the This Beautiful Brain newsletter, where I send out information on how to have a healthier brain and how to have a great quality of life. I send it out every Sunday. I can't wait to see you there. Bye.